It's lush, green, and filled with charm. What's not to love about Ireland? Welcome to Hungry for Travel TV. I'm Carol Yelverton. We're cooking a luscious pork and cider stew and ramping up a creamy potato dish. First, though, here are a few things you'll find only in Ireland. One thing you'll find all over Ireland is a breakout culinary scene. Not only is this a farm-to-table explosion, it's all about enjoying Irish foods in new and creative ways. So I put this recipe together to really showcase the kind of cooking that Ireland is about these days. You know, we hear of all kinds of stews and heavy dishes. Well, they're still there, but there's new takes on things. So what I have for you right now is called pork and cider. Now, I've taken pork shoulder. I had the butcher kind of cut it for me, and then I cut it myself to make even smaller little pieces. And I dredged it in some flour. Easy enough, with some salt and pepper, and I just let it get all nicely brown. Now I pre-cooked some bacon, thick cut bacon, and I'm adding that. So you can see we're gonna have pork on pork flavors and the saltiness of the bacon, which is like just so amazing. Who doesn't love bacon, right? And to that I'm adding some brown sugar. So the brown sugar is gonna add a sweet element. The bacon's gonna add a salty element, and together it's really just gonna come together in an awesome way. So I let this cook a little bit, and then I add some stock. Now I like to use stock, not broth, because it's just got a lot more flavor to it. You can use chicken broth. I'm using vegetable broth now. So I'm just gonna get that in there, get that going. I love that sound. Woo! Good things are happening. And the other thing I'm gonna add, we're calling it pork and cider, so I think we need some cider. So here it goes. Some nice apple cider goes in there as well. And again, this is going to just mellow this dish out. It's just going to have so much flavor. There's going to be so many interesting things happening in it. It's really going to taste different than kind of a standard stew would taste. So we are going to add carrots, lots of beautiful, beautiful carrots, because they add so much color. They're delicious. All the vegetables I'm putting in are vegetables that are grown in Ireland. So, you know, these are really the authentic kinds of foods you'll find there. Now, I love parsnips. They look like carrots, but they're not like carrots at all. They kind of have this little sweetness to them, almost an anise-like flavor. And they just, with the pork, with the cider, they're just going to sweeten this thing up just so beautifully right now. So we're going to get that going. Now, I also have celery, and I think you can see, as I put this in, that this isn't like a side flavor. A lot of times we use celery just to kind of add a little flavor to a dish, but these are real chunks. These are major players in this dish, and again, because the flavor of the celery is so good and interesting, and it's gonna go really well with this dish. So, I've got some mushrooms going in too, and again, it all kind of works together. This is one of these things where, you know, you just put your vegetables in that make sense for your stew, and it really all happens. And of course, potatoes, because Ireland. But I'm not going to go heavy on the potatoes. We're going to add some potatoes in here, but we have a lot of other root vegetables and other vegetables working. I've got some onions too, and the onions really give a great flavor to the stew. And then I'm just going to add some garlic. And I like to use a garlic masher. It's one of these things I've used like forever. And it's really simple, easy to use, and it gets a good amount of garlic right into the stew. So this is it. We stir this up. We get it cooking. Cook it down for about an hour and a half or so. And then just about 10 minutes before it's done, I forgot to add the herbs. Let me add the herbs too. Bay leaf, and then I have some thyme. And I get fresh thyme, and I put it in the freezer. I went to look for thyme at the market yesterday, and they didn't have any fresh thyme, but I was able to pull this out of my freezer, and it's even though it's frozen, it's really a lot better than the dry ingredients. Salt, of course, and some freshly ground black pepper. So we have all our seasonings in. Again, this is going to now just get covered and cook for an hour and a half. So about 10 minutes before I'm ready to serve it, I actually make a little slurry up because you like to have a stew that gets a little thick. So I have some flour in here, and then I'm just going to add some of this broth. And we just stir it around together, mix it up, and then of course we just stir it back in, and that's going to create that thickness we want in kind of the gravy. And then I love peas at the end, because they haven't overcooked. They still have that nice bright color. They're really fresh, and they just taste so much better that way. So I got to tell you, this is a huge hit. I make this for a family dinner a lot. Bring it over in a big pot. Everybody loves it. Everybody's really, really happy when this happens. So we all need our Instagram shots, don't we? Because I want to show you the finished product. So you can see that I've added a little parsley on top, and also I have put some bacon bits in, some more minced bacon on top, just because it's just a little crispy, it's delicious. So this is savory and briny from the bacon, just a little sweet with the undertones of that cider, and with lean pork and so many delicious vegetables. This is comfort food that's light, bright, fresh. It's just really fantastic. There are so many great culinary experiences all over Ireland, including Dublin. Their food trail is one go-to experience you don't want to miss.
Guys, welcome to the Irish Food Trail in Dublin City. Glad you could all join us. We're going to show you some traditional Irish food to some modern food, and you're going to get to meet some chefs and some owners. So it's a real nice experience. But I'd love to start the tour out, especially here in this beautiful backdrop, and just tell you a little bit about how Dublin came to be. In fact, you're standing on one of the oldest parts of Dublin. It was always a multicultural city. So we had Vikings, Normans, and you'll see that through the food as well. You might taste some seafood to Irish stews, and you'll definitely have some craft beer and Irish beer involved as well. So come and join us on the Irish Food Trail.
This food trail kicked off with a short walk to the Temple Bar district.
So guys, welcome to our first stop, Gallagher's Boxty House. They call this welcome to the home of the humble spud. They do things with potatoes in here, dishes that you wouldn't think are potatoes. We'll meet Dave Power, the head chef, and we'll get to taste some boxty as well. So come on in and say hello.
So what you've got here are boxty dumplings and a cashew blue cheese sauce. This is the boxty loaf. It's got St. Tola's goat's cheese in it and some sun-dried tomatoes. And here we got the boxty fries, which are boxty pancakes cut into thin strips and fried.
Chef Gallagher demonstrated the art of making boxty, a simple combination of grated and mashed potatoes, flour and milk, which is then fried, as well as the proper method of opening an oyster.
So we just need to run our knife under there. There's a very little tiny muscle that connects it to the shell. And that's our oyster done, okay?
Our first stop finished off with some Irish caviar and a shot of locally produced vodka.
Got our own little word for cheers, which is sláinte. So if you have your vodka there, we'll do a bit of sláinte. Sláinte.
On to the next stop, across the historic Haypenny Bridge and the River Liffey to the winding stair and the woolen mills.
So what we're going to do first is we're extremely famous for our chowder. So I thought we'd have a little bowl of that, and then some platters of Irish charcuterie and Irish smoked fish, because both of those are kind of resurgent industries in Ireland.
The offerings were paired with a variety of Irish craft ciders and beers.
I'm sommelier, but we're also trained, of course, in the arts of cider, beer, and spirits and things like that. This is a really exciting time for Ireland because it's a revolution. It's literally what it is. Cider, beer, and whiskeys now have just absolutely exploded.
The tour ended with a whiskey tasting, a selection of Irish cheeses, and platters of homemade desserts.
Dairy is such an important part of Irish cooking. The country is filled with small family-run dairy farms, and that green grass they feed the cows, it really does make a difference. We're so fortunate to have access to some of these creamy, rich products here in the States. Now, butter is something that is really special. Irish butter just has a rounder flavor. When you use it, you really feel like you're tasting butter. Now, there's some cheeses too that I love. This is Dubliner. It's one of my favorites. It's just a sharp cheese, tangy, totally creamy. It's really, really so delicious. And then Skellig is a very sweet cheddar. It has a little kind of a fruity flavor that gets packaged all together with the sharp cheese. So when you go to Ireland, you've got to try all of this. And you also have to have a handle on money-saving tips when you go there, don't you? Well, we've got you covered with these Irish travel hacks. Champ is a very legendary Irish dish. It's often served at Halloween or the holidays, and it's a beautiful mashed potato dish, and I want to show you how to make it. And also, just making Irish mashed potatoes is really different from the way we know how to make potatoes here in the States. So I have cooked down some Yukon Gold potatoes, and I'll just show you what they look like. Just these kind of potatoes, they're just really simple. They're waxy and they tend to have a lot of a creamy finish to them. So they're really the best type of potato you want to use for creamy mashed potatoes. So what I've done is I've drained the potatoes, I peeled them, I cut them into kind of uniform pieces, put them in cold water, let them cook down in a little salt, and then I drain them, and then I return them to the stove, and I let them cook on a very, very low heat for a while until all the water is drained out. And that is one of the huge keys of these potatoes. I'm just going to grab a little pot holder to help me get them in the pot and into the pan here. It's a heavy pot, so here they go. Woo. All right. So you can see these potatoes all set, all good to go. Now you could use a ricer if you want. People use the ricers, but I really like a masher. And so what I like to do is just start to get a good mash going. These are dry, and it really makes a big difference. Okay, so see they're starting to really come together, and I feel like I can just manipulate the texture of the potatoes better. Now, Irish butter. I think we're going to need some, don't you? So we're going to put some butter in. So we're going to add a little white pepper. A little goes a long way with white pepper, so just use a touch there. So we've got our butter in, and meantime, I've got some warm milk going on the stove, whole milk. And now, typically with Champ, you add scallions into the Champ, which is great. I like to save the greens for last because I just have, it's better control for me when I'm working with the food. So what I like to do is I put just the whites of the scallions in here, and then I'm going to add some shallots too. They're beautiful mild onions, and so they're just going to bring this very soft flavor. And what happens when you put them in warm milk is that the aroma is just released, and so once we add it into the potatoes, it's just going to just create this really beautiful kind of whole mix together. Now, it's all about the fluff factor with potatoes, with mashed potatoes. So I've done a lot of research in like, how do you make the fluffiest potatoes? And I really found, kind of better living through chemistry, that there's just something you can do that's going to just cause a rise to the potatoes. And it's mixing some baking powder with just a little bit, and I hear it bubbling, you probably can't, but it's just bubbling up. Baking powder and white vinegar. And so what's happening is it's creating some carbon dioxide. I'm just going to put some of it in. We don't really want to taste the vinegar, so it's just a really little bit. But that is going to create this reaction in the potatoes that's going to be really amazing. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to grab a big fork here because I like to mix this way. Again, it's all about really making sure you don't overmash and you have a lot of control. I've got the green onions waiting to go on top. And now we're just going to add some of our milk in. So put some in, and then we're going to mix it all together. There we go. Mix it together until we just get a lot of good flavor going. Perfect. All right. And then, yep. Oh yeah, these are going to be perfect. And they're just going to sit a little bit together and absorb a little bit more of that milk. And then they're going to be good to serve. And I just want to show you the beauty shot when it's done, because it's one of these things that, again, you bring it to a table and it's like the ah factor. So here's our beauty shot. Our champ is all dressed up with the beautiful scallions on it on the top, and there's nothing like that little pat of Irish butter right in the middle. You know, nothing says Ireland quite like looking at a picture of Irish butter on melted mashed potatoes. So it's beautiful, fluffy, and light. The sweet onion flavors bring a great little kick, and that creamy texture, it's almost illegal. What great culinary experiences Ireland has offered us. We have new innovative dishes and a true classic like this champ. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Carol Yelverton. Until I see you again, stay hungry for travel.